Okay, Bible and Daily Lifers, here we are. We are going through the Bible in a year. The Bible, the whole Bible, nothing but the Bible. And we're in Genesis, and we've been slowing down in Genesis a little bit in the beginning here. And so we will pick up the pace at some point, but we want to lay the foundation in all of the important points, and most of them that go all throughout the scripture are found in Genesis. And so we're in chapter 9 of Genesis after the flood and after the ark, and we looked at that. We looked at a feasibility study about Noah and the boat and the flood, and could this happen? And seemingly so it can. And we'll go back to that also. We'll go back a little bit more. But we're in chapter 9, and this is where the ark finally rests on Mount Ararat, modern-day Turkey. And this is where God said, I won't do this again. I won't flood the earth again. And I'll make a promise, and I'll show you the sign of my promise is that I'll put a rainbow in the sky. So here we now come up to chapter 10, which is known as the Table of Nations. Now let's start reading here, chapter 10. This is the account of Shem, Ham, and Japheth, Noah's sons, who themselves had sons after the flood. Now here's how it reads. The sons of Japheth, Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshech, Tyrus. The sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, Rithhaf, Gomer. The sons of Javan, Elisha, Tarshish, the Kiddites, the Rodanites. And from them the maritime people spread out over the territories by their clans, each in their nations, each with their language. The Hamites, the sons of Ham. What is this all about? What is this all about? Well, this is the history of humanity spreading out all over the planet after the new beginning. What happens when the ark lands? It's a whole new beginning. It's a whole new world. Now, this is going out generations, multiple generations of where people from Noah's family spread out on the planet. The thing about this is it's remarkable because it shows us what we know about human migration around the planet. And so it's here from this spot that humanity spreads out all over the planet. Like a little pebble in the pond, you know how you throw the pebble in the pond and you see those concentric circles coming out, or the spokes on a wheel? Well, that's what's happening. So this family lands up on the mountain, and they start to have sons and daughters, and they start to marry and have children. And so science and scripture both see the spread of humanity beginning here. And if you look at any migration map of human history, it will show coming from this area, this region, or somewhere nearby, people spreading out all over the earth and showing where the different migration routes of different people are. And so it reads like a family genealogy. It goes down, to the third and fifth generation from the flood. And the interesting thing is that this is in the Bible, and this was in the Bible way before Ancestry.com and 23andMe, and where we could find our DNA and trace ourselves back and find out where we came from. Well, this is very, very accurate, this table of nations, this map of human migration throughout the planet, how people got everywhere. And so it does also help us to understand God's hand in history, that God has been working in history and has been working with peoples. And there's also, this is going to bring us all the way to the New Testament, all the way to the book of Acts, all the way to the book of Revelation, where we see in the final scenes, where we see people from every tongue and every nation, every tongue, every people, every tribe before the throne, praising and worshiping God. Now, William F. Albright, who was one of the most prominent archaeologists in history, he says that the Table of Nations is a document that is accurate. It's astounding how accurate the document is. And so it is a document of humanity and where humanity went around the planet. Now, here's the big thing here, is that what we learn from this is that there is only one race, the human race, which the Apostle Paul tells us about that in Acts 17. There's only one race that comes basically from three families. And this is what we know from migration as we follow migration today, scientifically and through DNA. Here's what it says in Acts 17. The Apostle Paul says this 2,000 years ago. Now, the book of Genesis is going back way before the Apostle Paul. But Acts 17, Paul said, from one man, one person, some translations say one blood, he made every nation on earth, every nation of men, that they should inhabit the whole earth, and he determined the times and places set for them, the exact places they'd live. This is Acts 17, 26 and 27. God did this so that people might seek him and perhaps reach out for him and find him, because he's not far from each of us. From one blood, we all came from the same place, and now we know this. In fact, some years ago, public television did a special on race, because race is such a big issue, such a hot issue in our culture and our nation. And so they wanted to explore it. And what they did, I think it might have ultimately been by accident, is they came to the conclusion that scientifically we all have a common ancestor. We all have a common mother. And so therefore, if we have a common mother, we have, a common couple going somewhere back. We're all brothers and sisters. We all came from the same place. And that's what it's teaching us here in chapter 10 of Genesis. Noah's family. We all came from there. We're all related to Noah's family in one way or another. All of us. And so this chapter also has a link between the historic nations and Noah. And it gives us a family tree from the flood all the way to Abraham. And then Matthew gives it to us from Abraham to Jesus. Amazing, the connection all through the scripture. And so we're talking about putting the scripture together and looking at it from 30,000 feet or 230 miles an hour as we pass it. And we see that you have the whole history and the whole genealogy of humanity. And it teaches us that God chose to reach the world, all of the nations, through one people. So who are these people? In chapter 10, it gives those three sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And they're always in order in that scripture. When Jesus is born, they come in that order. The shepherds come from Shem. The wise men come from Ham. Certain Greeks from Japheth. And so these three sons, these three bloods, if you will, three families creating one family of humanity. The preaching of the gospel is always in that order. When Peter is preaching, he says, men of Israel, Shem, the Ethiopian eunuch with Philip, Cornelius. And so each became a major people group populating the earth. And each has a major contribution to civilization. Japheth, he becomes sort of the father of the Indo-Europeans. You might remember that phrase from junior high or high school. And so those in India are your cousins. Historically speaking, both groups, the Indo-Europeans, trace themselves back to Japheth. And Japheth's 7 sons, they migrated to Spain and to France and to Britain, Western Europe nations. And therefore, those nations, consequently, the Americas. Many people from there came to the Americas. Gomer, the Turks, the Armenians, the Greeks. And their contribution throughout history has been, intellectual enlargement, covering a wide geographical distribution. The next ones that you find are Ham, Ham and the sons of Ham. And they are many of the Middle Eastern people, and the continent of Africa. And almost all earliest civilizations were Hamite. The Egyptians, the Sumerians, the Babylonians, the Aztecs, the Mayans. And so Cush is easily traceable to Ethiopia. Verse 15, the Sinites are easily identified with China. And so the Hamites, they were the technicians of the world. They adapted in amazing ways early technology. And we know that. Now we know that, just like the Bible had told us. These people have gone out in different directions and settled in different places and brought different contributions to the planet. It gets to Nimrod in verses 8 through 12. Well, he's sort of a mysterious player. He's the founder of Babylon and Nineveh, the centers of rebellion against God. It says that he's a mighty hunter And he's the father of false and idolatrous religions. When we get here to verse 21, that's where we find Shem, or the Semites, responsible through Abraham to develop spiritual life. Eber, where that name there is found, where Hebrew comes from. Abraham was 6 generations from Eber. You have Peleg in there in verse 25, and it could be referring to Babylon or the continental shift when the continents were broken up. And so the rest of the Bible will deal with Abraham's children. So basically, this document deals with the 70 families of the sons of Noah, the same number of children that went down into Egypt. The number 70 plays all through the scripture. 70 elders in Israel, 70 weeks of Daniel, 70 members of the Sanhedrin. Jesus sends out the 70. 70 scholars translate the Septuagint. Babylon captivity was 70 years. And so Herod's temple was destroyed 70 years after Herod tried to kill the infant Jesus. So amazing document. The scripture is amazing. It shows where all the peoples of the earth settled. And most people, when they read this, they go right past it, not realizing that it's a document that gives us the history of all humanity way before Ancestry.com was born, way before 23andMe, way before all of that, way before PBS did a special on race that concluded that we all came from one blood, one place, one mom. So we're going to continue through the Bible, and we will get there. We'll be in Genesis for a little bit more, and then we'll be in Exodus for a little bit, and then we'll start to move pretty fast. Hey, so love you guys. Bless you.